Loads of stalling on free hit game week 13. Well, I'm here to tell you I'm all in. The chip is active and we're ready to go. These are my early thoughts. Welcome back to another video, guys. Hope you're good and you enjoyed game week 12. But in today's video, I'm going to show you an updated free hit draft of game week 13. But we're also going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of using the chip, and we'll touch on triple captaincy for those still with the chip as well. But look, without further ado, let's have a look at how I got on in game week 12. And we're not going to spend a huge amount of time on this, but it's around about a grey arrow, like not big swings either way here for me. Unfortunately, we always remember the bad of a game week, don't we? And the things that stand out for me are no Semenyo. I really thought he'd play. But Mukiele comes in and gets 4 points. It could have been so many more. With 5 minutes to go, or 7-8 minutes to go of that football match, Mukiele was on for double digits, but the late clean sheet wipeout wiped his bonus and, of course, wiped the clean sheets. But he still got DEFCON, and I had a fair few players hitting DEFCON this week. The likes of Virgil van Dijk, you know, they still hit it. Saka, they still hit it, even when they blank quite often. Unfortunately, my boy Minter, who, by the way, as a budget pick in midfield, like I paid 5.8 for him. He's been so good. Consistent returns now from Minter. Brighton are scoring goals. He's a really good own if you're looking for a midfielder in that price band. I think he's probably the pick, and that's one of the few really good decisions I think I've made this season on a differential. And at my rank when I bought him in, I think it was about 3% owned. Now around 7-8% owned at my rank. But awesome returns from the Brighton wide man. He really is the source of all creativity at Brighton. But look, first of all, let's look at my team and how I'm set. With no chips played, this is how I'm set up. And this is why I'm using a free hit, right? When we look at my team, there is a lot of players with tough away fixtures. My Man United players, I think Selhurst Park is a proper tough visit. My Bournemouth players, they go to Sunderland. I think that's a tough trip. Is Semenyo even going to be fit? We're not sure. Minter himself, tough fixture at Forest. I am happy using a free hit, and it cancels out my Arsenal players who go to Stamford Bridge, and it cancels out the 4 players I've got in Man United versus Crystal Palace, because I don't know how that game's going. And you could argue Arsenal players, Man United players, Crystal Palace players, forget their fixture. They're good players and they can turn up on any given day. And of course they can. But we have to use the free hit at some point, guys. So we'll come away from how my team would be set, because we're simply not going with this team this week. And let me just talk a little bit now about the chips we've got remaining and when we should be using them. Because, guys, you can't take them with you. Your game week 19 comes around and you've got to use all your chips. And many will say, oh, is this the best week to free hit? It's team dependent. I'm not here to tell you it is. It's the best week for me to free hit doesn't mean it's the best week for you to free hit. So if you look ahead and go, I've got a pretty average team in game week 16, maybe I free hit then. I completely get it. Use the chip then. For me, we've just seen my 13 team. It's fine, and it could outscore my free hit team. You've got that jeopardy any week, because usually, and we're not used to this, we use free hits around double game weeks. Well, we're not going to get that this season. So with all that in mind, surely we look at it and go, why not? We have to play a little bit differently this season because we've got double chips and we're using chips in single game weeks. It works for me. Now, we will talk more about the advantages and the disadvantages of using it versus 13 and 16. And that's really important to discuss. But before we do that, let me just tell you, we are going to get 5 free transfers. Everyone topped up to 5 ahead of game week 16. So whether you're looking at free hit 16, 17 or 18, just know you might be able to get an awesome looking team out in those weeks because you might be using loads of your free transfers. In fact, you're going to be using some of them. And I think the teams you can put out without a chip in 16, 17 and 18 are going to be awesome because you're going to use your free transfers. You just are. You're not going to use them all. You might use them all. Whatever, you're going to have a very good looking team. I would also argue the fixtures are so obvious in the swings for 16, 17 and 18. You're going to be buying good players for the long run. You don't need short-term punts, and therefore using transfers on good players will be wise. I'm not sure the free hit team in 16 is going to be too different to my actual team, for example. But we'll talk about 13 versus 16 in a second. But first, I did poll this on Twitter. I just wanted to get like a rough gauge of how many of you guys are actually using the chip this week. And understand, like, it's a mixed bag. Around 40% are using it. Around 40% have said they're not using it, probably because they've already used it or they love 16, and that's fair enough. But about 20% are unsure. And I understand why, but don't wait for your favorite content creator to tell you to use the chip. Like, honestly, it's so team dependent. Don't look at me and go, Gianni's using it and I like what he says, so I'm going to do it. No, is it good for your team? And we've just seen my team. Let me just show you very quickly again my team, right? So I've got Semenyo flagged. Chris Richards could be out injured. That's straight away. That's 2 players. I'm like, they might not even be around. Then we've got the players with the away fixtures that I've spoken about. I look at this team and I think it could score well because it's a good team. But I think my free hit team should outperform it. And I can't say that like with a certainty, but I'm willing to back myself with that move. You have to do the same if you like it. And if you don't, you pick another week. So let's look at the 2 obvious weeks. And again, it's not just 13 and 16. You can look at 14, you can look at 15, whatever. But for me, it was 13 versus 16. And I have highlighted the teams with good fixtures here. So I did this in my free hit draft. I'm not going to spend too long on this slide because I've shown you this already if you watch all my videos. And by the way, guys, if you want to hit the like button, that'd be awesome. But please do subscribe if you're new around here. I would love you to support my journey by subscribing. 13, there's big wins with Brentford and Man City. I only have 1 player in Man City Brentford at the moment, and I love those 2 home games. Spurs, I'm probably swerving, but Villa, I like Rodgers. And then Liverpool. I don't have players from these teams. I can avoid the ones we've said. 16, loads of sexy picks here. But I reckon I'll own loads of these players because I'm going to have 5 free transfers. Arsenal versus Wolves, Burnley versus Fulham, Liverpool versus Brighton. I mean, Cole Palmer you could get, Chelsea versus Everton, Brentford versus Leeds, Man United, Bournemouth. But 5 free transfers. I'm bringing in, let's say I use 3 of the transfers. I'm bringing in players from these clubs. And I've got a lot of players from these clubs. Therefore, the swing in 16 isn't enough. And I would argue the biggest headache on free hit 16 will be, do you back against Haaland because he's got a tough trip? I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to even have to think about that position. I think to maximize free hit, you probably do back against Haaland. And I think that's so risky. I'm just not there for that. Because if you're back against Haaland, you can go Salah, Palmer, Saka, Bruno, and Burmo, for example. 5 quality, expensive midfielders. I'm just not here for that right here, right now. By the way, triple captain, I like 13 if you've still got it. The narrative on Haaland is so, so good. So look, we've looked at all the stuff. There's one last slide to show you, which again, I showed you earlier this week, but just to show you the European spacing. Let's not lock in any of our decisions until we've seen Man City and Liverpool especially playing Europe. And Forest and Villa, to be fair. I'm less interested in Spurs, but just know the gap between fixtures for City is great. It's absolutely fine. Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, I'm all right with that. Spurs have got a horrible swing of Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. Horrible spacing, I should say. Liverpool, well, they were Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday. They're fine. That should be absolutely fine. And then I expect Villa and Forest to rotate on the Thursday night games anyway. Again, let's look at minutes of those players. But the minutes for Man City and the minutes for Liverpool are really key. And the form. The form of Liverpool is key. I need to see a comprehensive win. I need to see Salah scoring goals. With Man City, if we get a Doku rest, that's a good thing. It means probably going to play at the weekend, etc., etc. First up, just a quick word from our sponsor, Fantasy Football Scout. I know so many of you already use Scout. There is so many free resources on the website, but there's also a members-only area and 45% discount Black Friday deal if you scan my QR code or click the link in the description. Check it out. Such a good time to sign up. Right, should we see the team? I've made some changes from the first draft I showed you. As things stand, we'll do the bench first because I don't think we need to spend time on the bench. Dubravka is budget, right? I've got Dubravka in. I've got 1 good sub, but the good sub I've got is still a 4 million man in Mukiele. I'll be very happy with Mukiele starting. I think he probably gets DEFCON versus Bournemouth. When centre-backs play Bournemouth, they've got a really good chance of DEFCON, and history shows us they get it. Mukiele is one of the best DEFCON beasts in the game. So should be getting DEFCON. I probably don't think a clean sheet, but I don't think I'm going to need any of my subs anyway. In goal, Emi Martinez. I quite like this one. Emi Martinez has got the fixture. I think we all agree, like, Wolves are pretty dead and buried, aren't they? They'll probably have some shots, but I fancy Villa. Emi Martinez is good at saving penalties. If Wolves do get a penalty, he saved one a couple of weeks ago, and big points for goalkeepers when they save pens. And he also makes quite good amount of saves. Like, I don't expect Wolves to test him too much, but Villa will be right at the top of the charts for clean sheet points and clean sheet odds by the bookies this week. So Martinez and goal I'm fairly happy with. And then my back 3, I wasn't going to go with a Liverpool defender. And again, I'm going to see how they look in the Champions League. But as things stand, just for goal threat, West Ham are one of the weakest teams in the division at conceding from set pieces, and Virgil is one of the best in the air. In fact, attacking set pieces in the league, Gabriel is the best. You'd probably say Virgil van Dijk is the second best. I don't think there's any argument there, actually. So I might go with Van Dijk. Is he locked in? And guys, I'm going to give you a padlock emoji on some of these players. Let me talk through them, and then I'll go through and say who's locked at the end, right? Who's locked? Let me make a note of that to make sure I don't forget. Murillo is a really interesting one because he's just gone and hit ridiculous amounts of DEFCON 19 and got an attack in return. And I just feel like Forest under Dyche are going to become quite predictable for clean sheets. We did it at Burnley with Dyche. We always had a Burnley defender, 4 million. Same at Everton. We loved an Everton defender under Dyche. I fancy Forest to keep a clean sheet. I know Brighton will create opportunity and you always back them to score a goal. But Brighton didn't create one single big chance versus Brentford. I know they scored 2 goals, but it didn't create a big chance versus Brentford. And I just think at home at the City Ground, with the DEFCON potential and the goal threat potential, Murillo is a fantastic pick. And then Coyote is similar, right? Like Coyote's action hero, right? He inverts from midfield. He takes the long throws. He creates big chances. He doesn't come with the DEFCON that a Vandenberg comes with or Collins comes with. But I don't expect the centre-backs to get DEFCON at Brentford versus Burnley. Burnley don't really trouble you. And when you play Burnley, your centre-backs often don't get DEFCON. So the upside Coyote brings is fun. And he's one that you might see a padlock on in a minute's time. So Coyote in the long throw specialist, but open play assists. He's got the potential there. His average position is great. And I'm really backing into Brentford in this fixture. At home to Burnley, no midweek football for Brentford. You're going to see a couple of Brentford players in this team. I could even go double Brentford defence with, say, Kelleher in goal. But as things stand, it's just Coyote here. So that's my back three. And it will be a back three because with this chip, it's all about upside, right? Of course, my team could outperform it. A back 4 or back 5 could be the smart play and you chase DEFCON, but I'm not interested in DEFCON defenders when I've got like a Collins or a Vandenberg, when I've got you could get an extra 2 points and you've got a greater chance of getting 2 points than Coyote's got of getting 2 attacking returns. But Coyote's got that potential. Vandenberg probably doesn't. So this is just about chasing ceiling. Same with my idea of selecting 3 defenders. And again, when we talk about ceiling, and I know he's been poor this season, but let's look at the midfielders. Mo Salah needs discussion because Mo Salah is, on his day, the best player this game has ever seen, consistently. I know Liverpool's form has dipped. I know there's loads of chat about Liverpool dead and buried and done. Let's see how they play in the week, and then we make a call. But West Ham are bad. West Ham went to Bournemouth and got a draw, and people will go, West Ham are looking all right. No. Bournemouth smashed them to pieces. In fact, I think they had 25-ish attempts. West Ham were lucky. They scored from 2 small chances. Callum Wilson, elite finishing. That scoreline flattered them. West Ham are on the ropes. West Ham are bad. Don't let that scoreline cover up that West Ham are a bad team. And Salah, I'm not going huge on Liverpool here. It's just one Liverpool attacker as things stand. But I feel like you got to back him. You just got to back him on free hit. And then let's talk the Man City mids. Because if we're talking about ceiling, no better way of attacking it than going triple Man City attack. There is, of course, a school of thought to say City will keep a clean sheet. Of course they will. It's Leeds at home. Leeds aren't going to have a chance. They're rubbish on the road. And I think City do keep a clean sheet. But do I want the 6-pointer of a Gvardiol, a Diaz, or an O'Reilly? And O'Reilly could go and get an attack in return. And he is a tempter for me. I'm slightly worried about minutes with Aït-Nouri back soon. Let's see who starts in the Champions League. But something just tells me to go all in on Man City attack. And Foden and Doku, I think, are the 2 obvious. Of course, if we were to hear Marmoush is starting, I'd chuck him in. If we were to hear Cherky starting, I'd probably chuck him in. But Foden and Doku, if we don't get team leaks, and we could, they are the early kickoff, Man City. 1:30 deadline this Saturday, remember? And there's a few 3 o'clock games. City are one of them. Then Foden and Doku just feel like the most nailed, and they have pretty much started the vast majority of football matches for Man City. And again, let's see if I either get a rest in the week, which would help my cause. But Man City started every Premier League game since game week 3, right? He is simply first choice, and we have to believe that. And Doku, he has started since game week 4. He's only been benched twice. He does always get the early sub, though, Doku, and I am slightly worried there. Do I go to the 90-minute man of a defender and just go Haaland, Foden, and maybe O'Reilly? Maybe I do. Doku is not locked in this team. I think Foden is, unless we get a team leak to suggest he's not starting. And then, of course, he's not locked. So when I go through my locks at the end of this video, we'll do open padlocks. They're not 100%, but if we were to not get a rumour, then they're locked. You get me? I think you do. Other midfielders. I mean, it was the Morgan Rogers show on Sunday, wasn't it? I was looking at Ollie Watkins for my Villa cover. Ollie Watkins with his early sub and all his blanks. Rogers on free kicks now as well. Rogers, who's starting for England. Let's not forget, Rogers is playing for a starting spot at a World Cup, and clearly he's playing for a move. He ain't going to be at Villa next season, I don't think. Rogers is in demand, and if he goes and gets a starting spot for England at a World Cup at the expense of a Jude Bellingham, imagine. I don't think he will start in the World Cup, but he's close, and Tuchel loves him. We know he's got an eye for a goal. Last season tells us this, but also the weekend tells us this with his brace. And I just think Rodgers versus Wolves, the way he's playing, this is a case of just backing form. Again, let's see how he looks on Thursday night. But the swagger of Rodgers is genuinely part of the appeal of a free hit. I genuinely think it is. So Rodgers is in, and I'm very happy with that decision. I'm going to leave a question mark there for my 5th midfielder, because there are a fair few directions I could go in here. This is effectively my 7th attacker. I'll explain more in a second. Up front, Haaland we're not going to discuss. He'll be my captain. And if you've got triple captain, I think you probably use it. If you don't use it, you've got to be free hitting. You've got to use one of them if you've got both chips. But if you've just got triple captain, I think it's a good call. Will he get 90 minutes? Probably will. Probably will. People said against Burnley when I triple captained in, was it game week 6? He won't get 90. They'll be winning the game and he'll get subbed. He didn't. He often gets 90, and he plays Leverkusen on Tuesday. He's got a big enough rest. And then Thiago, a bit like Rodgers, this is just an obvious big appeal to a free hit. Non-free hit teams, many of them won't have a Thiago, even though he's gone up in price this week and he's popular. A lot of people's structure doesn't allow it. They'll have Mateta, Haaland, and then a Guiu, or Mateta, Haaland, and Krupi Jr. Thiago is flying. He's the 2nd best scoring forward in the game. Brentford win penalties, and yes, he's just missed one, but in a good way. He's got it out of the way, and he still scores his pens. He's still on pens, and Brentford get them, and he's got the open play threat. What more could you want from like a fairly affordable pick up front? Big chance Brentford, they always crate for him. So let's talk about this 7th attacker. I'm going to call him a 7th attacker because this might not be a midfield pick. This could be a forward pick. I could change to a 3-4-3. I don't know where I'm going with this. And as things stand, with the budget I've got with this team, I've got 7.3. So let's just put 7.3 on that graphic. I've got 7.3 million to spend. But I could move it around and probably go up to like 8.5 if I needed a bit of surgery elsewhere. But as this stand, I've got 7.3. 7.3 is the value of Morgan Gibbs-White. I could also go Kevin Schade. I could go another Liverpool attacker. Like, could I go Gakpo? I mean, I like Gakpo. If he plays well in the week, he's 7.5. I could probably afford it. This is probably reacting to what I see in Europe. I like Szoboszlai. I still like Szoboszlai. And I know Liverpool are bad, but if I see something from Liverpool in the week, to double up on their attack and go Szoboszlai or Gakpo with Salah is an option. Kevin Schade is probably too many eggs in my Brentford basket. Thiago and Coyote is probably enough, although Schade's a 90-minute man and he's fun. Not the most advanced on the pitch. Yeah, he's not stupid. No, not the most advanced. Makes me sound like I'm saying he's stupid. Yeah. I'm sure he's an intelligent man, and he gets 90 minutes. Damsgaard and Dango are higher on the pitch, though. They're both cheaper, but they don't get 90. Schade does. Or do I look at a different Forest option? I could go Igor Jesus up front for Forest. I could go, I really like Ndoye at Forest at 5.5 million. I like Elliot Anderson and Gibbs-White. Again, let's react to what I see on Thursday. Or is there a wildcard punt in here where instead of putting a midfielder in this position, I put in a forward and I find the funds for Ekitike or I find the funds for Isak? Again, I keep saying this, with a fair few of these picks, certainly Liverpool and Man City, This is about reacting to what I see in the week. And I'm reacting to Isak and Ekatike's form and minutes. Isak Salah against West Ham. At the start of the season, we just said that would be a brilliant call. So maybe that's where I go. I really don't know. Let me know in the comments where you would go. And let's now talk about who's locked and who's not. And guys, thank you for hitting that subscribe and like button today. It genuinely means a lot. Really appreciate you as always. Who's locked, who's not? Oh, Martinez isn't locked because I could go Sales or Kelleher if I'm reshuffling. I would like to think... look, Coyote's locked. Let's lock him in. I'd like to think Murillo and Virgil are locked, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it just yet. Let's not lock them in because I could end up with Sales and then it's not Murillo. But I'm definitely going to be covering Forest for sure. And I'm going to be covering Villa and I'll probably cover Liverpool. So the teams there are locked, but the players aren't. So let's just go Coyote. Let's lock in Salah. Let's lock in Foden. Let's lock in Rodgers. Those three are locked, I'm pleased to say. Doku isn't, just in case I go to a Man City mid or defender or Cherky or Marmoush, depending on team leaks. And again, Foden could come out if we heard he was dropped. But, you know, I think that's very unlikely. So Salah, Foden, Rodgers is an awesome three and they're locked in. And then let's lock in two more, shall we? We can't lock in the mystery position, which at the moment we'll just go with Gibbs White. Like, we're not locking him in, though. Obviously, Haaland and Thiago are locked. I'll see you very soon for another video. Bye, guys.